When it comes to clearing tight rooms in Battlefield 6, nothing hits harder than a shotgun. One pull of the trigger, and your opponent is instantly on a sightseeing trip back to the respawn screen. And because BF6 is surprisingly generous with shotgun range, you don't even have to be right in someone's face to delete them. It's basically the game's way of saying, go ahead, make chaos your playstyle. Now, even though BF6 doesn't have a huge list of shotguns, the ones we do have are all worth picking up. Still, they each handle differently, and some shine in places where others fall short. So in today's video, we're breaking down every shotgun in the game, what they do well, where they struggle, and which one might become your new go-to for close quarters domination. Let's jump in. I'm quickly moving on to the video. Before we start, if you enjoy these types of list videos, don't forget to like the video and subscribe. Enjoy watching! The 18.5 KSK is one of those shotguns in Battlefield 6 that immediately makes you raise an eyebrow. When you first pick it up, it feels different from the rest of the class. It does not deliver a one-hit kill at point-blank range like the other shotguns, unless you are using slug ammunition and you manage a perfect headshot within 10 meters. That alone already places it in a unique category, because every other shotgun practically rewards you just for showing up at close range. With the 18.5 KSK, you actually have to think before you pull the trigger. One thing that does stand out right away is the rate of fire. This thing fires at 300 rounds per minute, which is the fastest in the shotgun category. When you start unloading shells, it has a rhythm that almost feels like an automatic weapon pretending to be a shotgun. That speed gives the 18.5 KSK a level of forgiveness that the other shotguns simply do not provide. Miss a pellet group with another shotgun, and you are probably done. Miss a pellet group with the 18.5 KSK, and you have another shot coming a fraction of a second later. Another perk of this weapon is that it is magazine fed. That means every time you decide to reload, you get the entire set of shells filled immediately. No more loading shells one by one like you are packing for a camping trip while the enemy waits around the corner. If you are the kind of player who constantly reloads after every engagement, this weapon might actually make your life easier. But here is the catch, and it is a big one. All of these advantages start to collapse once you remember that it lacks a consistent one-hit kill range. Without that instant kill potential, you end up relying on its base time to kill, which sits at 0.26 seconds. Sure, that is technically faster than the M1014, but in a real match, that difference rarely matters when every other shotgun can delete players instantly with a well-placed shot. It puts the 18.5 KSK in a strange spot where it is good on paper, yet awkward in practice. This is where players often start asking themselves the same question. If the weapon cannot kill instantly like a shotgun, then why not just switch to a submachine gun? Something like the SCW-10 starts looking far more attractive. It has reach, it has stability, and it does not require you to fight an uphill battle every time you enter a room. The 18.5 KSK tries to be different, but sometimes being different is not enough. Attachments do not help its case either. Unlike other shotguns that can drastically change their performance depending on what you equip, the 18.5 KSK gets almost nothing that meaningfully boosts its damage. No larger magazines, no special ammunition that enhances its pellet output, nothing that fixes its biggest weakness. Slug ammunition can turn it into a kind of pseudo-marksman shotgun, but at that point you are basically playing a completely different style than what most shotgun fans want. There is a bit of hope for the future though. If DICE ever decides to add incendiary ammunition or the classic Battlefield 3 fragmentation rounds, the 18.5 KSK could suddenly become a completely different monster. Those ammunition types could fill the gap that keeps the weapon from fulfilling its true potential. It might even become a go-to pick for players who want a fast-firing shotgun that brings something fresh to close-quarters fights. For now, though, the 18.5 KSK sits at the bottom of the shotgun rankings. It is not a bad weapon, but it is outclassed in almost every scenario by options that offer more reliability, more power, and more straightforward performance. If you enjoy experimenting with off-meta weapons, you might still have fun with it. Otherwise, it is one of those tools you keep in the back pocket, waiting for a future update to give it the love it desperately needs. The M87A1 is the very first shotgun you gain access to in Battlefield 6, and honestly, it sets a pretty strong baseline for what a pump-action shotgun should feel like. It is slow, heavy, and deliberate, but every shot has authority. One of the biggest highlights is its extremely generous one-hit kill range, reaching up to 15 meters with standard buckshot. That is a lot of breathing room compared to most pump-action shotguns in other shooters, and when you get that perfect center mass blast, it feels exactly as powerful as it should. Because of how reliable the M87A1 is, it becomes the kind of weapon that rewards calm, confident players. It can secure a 2-hit kill at around 25 meters, which is impressive for a shotgun that is not using any exotic ammunition. Those 2 shots feel satisfying, but the slow cycling speed is the one thing that holds this weapon back. If you miss your first shot, or if your opponent is running straight at you with a fully automatic weapon, things can get uncomfortable very quickly. With pump-action weapons, hesitation is often the difference between winning and respawning. Now, when it comes to slug ammunition, the M87A1 is a bit of a mixed experience. The range increase is real, and the accuracy becomes surprisingly usable at around 35 meters. You can genuinely harass long-range targets if you have the aim for it. The problem is whether that style of play actually fits what most people want from a shotgun. If you are not planning on attaching a scope and turning this thing into a bootleg counter-sniper tool, slugs tend to cause more frustration than success. Buckshot is consistent, easy to land, and perfectly suited for the ranges where shotguns dominate. Where the M87A1 becomes fun is in its attachment choices, especially when you start experimenting with hipfire builds. Lasers do a great job of tightening your pellet spread when firing from the hip, which makes quick reactions in tight rooms far more lethal. They also make aggressive pushes smoother, because your shots are more likely to stay centered on your target. The downside is the visible beam that can give away your position if you are not careful. That is the eternal laser debate. Do you want performance or stealth? Aiming down sights, on the other hand, already tightens your pellet spread by default. That means many players skip lasers entirely and focus on improving aim down sight speed instead. When you snap into aim quickly, you get the same accuracy benefit without a glowing line revealing your movements. Both approaches work, and the M87A1 is surprisingly flexible in this area. It really just comes down to whether you prefer to hipfire like a brawler or pre-aim corners like a methodical hunter. Another underrated tool on this shotgun is the flashlight. People forget how effective flashlights are in Battlefield 6, especially at close range. They not only blind anyone who gets too close, but they also improve your recoil recovery while hip-firing. A blinded enemy combined with a tightened pellet cluster is a recipe for instant wins in small rooms. Even skilled players struggle to react when that sudden burst of light hits them at close range. What makes the M87A1 so trustworthy is that it teaches you proper shotgun fundamentals. It forces you to place your shots carefully, understand spacing, and anticipate engagements before they happen. Mastering the pump action rhythm actually makes you better with every other shotgun you pick up later, because it trains you to value precision more than raw rate of fire. You play smarter, and the weapon rewards you for it. In the end, the M87A1 is not some flashy high-tech shotgun, but it does its job exceptionally well. It is the definition of a reliable starting weapon. Strong enough to compete at close range, consistent enough to learn the game with, and flexible enough to support multiple playstyles. Whether you lean into hipfire dominance or aim down sights control, the M87A1 never feels like a bad choice. It is not perfect, but it earns its place as a dependable workhorse in the Battlefield 6 shotgun lineup. The M1014 is the kind of shotgun that immediately feels familiar the moment you pull the trigger. It is tube-fed, semi-automatic, and fires at 200 rounds per minute, which makes it noticeably faster than the pump-action options in Battlefield 6. With standard buckshot ammunition, it reaches a maximum damage value of 115 at very close range, and that gives it a reliable one-hit kill radius of roughly 8 meters. Inside that bubble, this shotgun absolutely delivers. Even though the M1014 does not have the impressive one-hit kill reach of the M87A1, it still performs exactly where a shotgun should. Between 8 and 15 meters, you are comfortably landing 2-hit kills with buckshot, and that consistency makes it extremely dependable in close quarters fights. If you miss your opening blast, it is not the end of the world, because the semi-automatic nature of the weapon lets you fire again almost instantly. That level of forgiveness is a huge deal, especially when chaos breaks out around you. One thing players love about the M1014 is how well it pairs with slug ammunition. When you switch to slugs, your 2-hit kill range stretches out to around 25 meters, while your 8-meter 1-hit kill zone still remains mostly intact. It turns the weapon into a more flexible mid-range tool without sacrificing the essential close-range power you want from a shotgun. It does take practice, though, because slug rounds travel slowly, and you will definitely notice the projectile drop when trying to hit moving targets. Then there is the famous 4-shell tube attachment, and this is where things get interesting. It reduces your magazine capacity, which sounds like a downside at first, but it allows you to instantly cancel the reload animation. That means you can fire a few shots, reload just enough to stay topped up, and keep moving without getting stuck in the long shell-by-shell reload cycle. It almost feels like a secret trick for experienced players who know how to pace their shots. If the developers ever decide this mechanic is unintentional and remove it, you can always go back to the default 6-shell tube, but for now, it is a powerful tool. Because the M1014 has a relatively short 1-hit kill radius, it is often best used as a secondary weapon when playing the assault class. Yes, you will lose some maximum ammunition by doing this, but the trade-off is worth it. You get a reliable emergency weapon that can instantly shut down enemies who push too close. In tight corridors, staircases, or objective rooms, the M1014 can completely flip a fight in your favor. The semi-automatic fire rate also makes this shotgun ideal for dealing with multiple enemies. Unlike pump-action options, you are not forced to rechamber after every shot, so you can keep pushing forward as long as you maintain your rhythm. The M1014 rewards players who stay calm, take measured shots, and do not panic when the pressure spikes. Of course, it is not without its weaknesses. Once you step beyond that 8-meter zone, you really start to feel the drop in effectiveness unless you specifically build around slugs. And even then, connecting with slug rounds requires solid aim and a good understanding of movement prediction. If you are used to point-and-delete shotguns, this one demands a little more discipline and patience. Overall, the M1014 earns its place as one of the top shotgun choices in Battlefield 6. It strikes a perfect balance between power, speed, and versatility, making it one of the most forgiving and most consistent close-range weapons in the game. Whether you run it as a primary or as a specialized secondary, the M1014 never feels like a bad pick. It is reliable, it hits hard, and it adapts to whatever style you decide to play. The video ends here. See you in another video. Don't forget to subscribe.